1 in 4 Singaporeans are going to be aged 65 and above by 2030. On that note, we're here today to answer some questions that might be more relevant to our aging demographic in Singapore. So if you're in the vicinity of retiring soon or perhaps already retired, this episode is for you. Hey guys, it's Justin from OrangeTee and I'm here today with Expert Answers, a new series that sets out to showcase the best brains and talents at OrangeTee to dish out the best advice for you on all your real estate questions. So to start off this series, what we need are a series of questions. And there we go. So let's see. Ooh, I love this question. Is Singapore a good place to retire? Well, I would love to retire right now, to be honest, but no, I still have a lot of work to do. Anyway, to talk about this, Singapore is an excellent place to retire if you ask me. We've got some of the best social nets in the world, stability, security, everything that you could want to have a very peaceful life. The question is, are there better places to retire at? And the answer to that is also yes. So maybe perhaps I could share with you a little story of a friend that I know of as well, who recently decided to retire. And what he did was he right-sized his portfolio, his property portfolio, and basically moved into smaller homes and moved into more convenient homes with MRTs, markets all downstairs to sort of like future-proof his golden chapter in life. And what he and his wife decided to do as well was to move to another country. The good thing about moving to another country and the good thing about being Singaporean is our currency is very strong. So you can actually have a pretty good life using this forex arbitrage living overseas. So what he did was actually to retain 2 properties. One is purely kept for rental, generating cash is completely unlevered. So it's pure cash generation every month. The other house is a HDB flat. He bought it because it's convenient, it has everything downstairs. Very easy to close up and lock up and go to the airport and travel as well. And originally he wanted to buy a house overseas. Somehow the deal broke down when he was overseas. And what happened was he decided to then rent. Now, you'd be surprised at how much you can rent overseas with so very little money when you convert it from Sing dollars into another currency. And these could be possible places that are just around our region where we have so much forex arbitrage with. I mean, you look at the ringgit, you look at the Thai baht, you look at the Indonesian rupiah as well. The Sing dollar goes a much longer way when you're able to send some of that money over there that's being generated in Singapore in exchange for a much better life. So are there better places to retire? Absolutely, but Singapore is still always a good place to be at. All right, next question. Is property a sustainable investment option beyond 55? This is actually a very popular question that I have encountered many a times when we do consumer seminars and the audience comes up to speak to us after that. And we realize that actually there's, again, a big segment of the community that's of a certain age and they are now asking themselves the question whether property is still a good thing for them to engage in. Now, we take a step back to understand why people invest in property first. The number one thing on why you buy real estate is because of leverage. And in Singapore, with leverage, the government dictates how late into life you can borrow money. And in Singapore, it's very straightforward. You can borrow until 65. So when you are 55 and beyond, you basically have less than 10 years left of leveraging and borrowing. So depending on how much your cash position is, if you don't have enough cash, you won't be able to take a large enough loan, and then basically your buying power will not be large enough as well. So you may not be able to buy into something real estate related in terms of physical bricks and mortar. As you know now, the average prices of homes in Singapore have far surpassed the 7-digit range. So again, if you're past 55 and you can only leverage for 10 years, your borrowing power is greatly diminished, so you must ensure that you have enough cash in the bank to be able to make that purchase. And the second point about real estate is not just about buying, but it is also about sustaining and holding. And that's what this question is asking, right? Is it a sustainable investment? Now, at the end of the day, you're earning an income now, you're not retired yet, you're still at 55 years old, but you know that maybe perhaps in a good few years, your income might stop. Then the question then is your property able to have positive gearing every month? And what that means is the rental income superseding the financial commitment of your monthly installments? Because if you're not able to sustain that, then the property is also not sustainable, then you might be forced to sell. And real estate, unlike other more liquid instruments, take a much longer time for you to exit. So that must be a consideration as well, the holding period, and then coming also to the exit. Quite often in Singapore, you realize also that quite a few of the high-yielding properties, they might be very high-yielding maybe because they are 99 years and very deep into the lease, So the quantum price is lower, match against the good location where you get good rental yield, the yields might seem very high, but when it's time for you to liquidate, when perhaps you are retired or you want to cash out, you might have some difficulty looking at that as well. So these are just some of the nuances that you need to look out for when you're approaching this age in terms of making property a sustainable investment. Next question. All right, is downsizing right for me? Well, I prefer to use the word right-sizing, and at the end of the day, it's quite a big trend now. We see that as well happening. In fact, it happened very close to my heart as well because my dad and my mom recently also just right-sized. I think it was a very healthy move for them. Going towards a certain age, you need to keep things on one level and not split levels. You need to be closer to amenities. Right now they live right above a mall and an MRT station, right? Every time I go to the house, my mom will say, "Oh, I love it here now. My dentist is downstairs. My hairdresser is downstairs. My favorite food is downstairs. My supermarket is downstairs." So in this case, right-sizing worked very well for them. The reason why that happened as well was, of course, because all the kids grew up. They were still living in the same old house that had been housing us for almost close to 20 years. And it was time for them to move on as well. In fact, now my parents can take an MRT all the way from their doorstep to my doorstep because I also live very close to the MRT station without having to cross any roads to visit each other. Right, so these are things that make a lot of sense. In selling the larger house and coming into a smaller one in a mixed development, not only did they get the convenience and the amenities, but more importantly now they were able to find other alternatives to also let the cash that was generated in terms of profit from the previous house to put into other instruments that were more nimble, had a bit more liquidity, because real estate, truth be told, you're not able to just sell it off so quickly, right? So they were able to also channel some of their other reserves into other instruments that were able to yield them an income in their retirement. So is right-sizing right for you? The question is, what do you want to achieve in this next chapter of your life? It could be a very exciting one, and right-sizing could be your method to get to that. So next question. All right, question. Can I pass my property to my kid? This is a very important question that's asked a lot today. Simple answer to it, yes, of course you can pass your property to your kids. It's a matter of how and when, right? In this case, when we talk about how, you can pass it to them now by the means of a sale or a transfer. However, in this case, you need to understand that there will be tax implications because you have to pay buyer stamp duty or seller stamp duty, whichever, depending on the dynamics of the sale of your property. The other method, if you talk about when, is basically you can transfer your property to your kid by means of a will. So for them to inherit the property from you in the case of your departure. When that happens in Singapore, you'll be glad to know that in Singapore we don't have inheritance tax, right? So that's actually a less costly option for the property to be transferred over to your next generation. Having said that, we've seen how many families have been split apart when the father or the mother passes an asset over to the next generation. So although we might have everything nicely structured on a will, sometimes if it's not handled properly and the next generation receives that, some things might still crop up later. So that's a little bit of a risk in that situation. Short answer is yes, you can transfer your property to your kids, a matter of how and when. All right, next question.